Project 2025, the right-wing playbook designed by the ultra-conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, by which Trump will follow should he be elected president. Project 2025 follows the concept of the Unitary Executive Theory, UET, which believes that the president should have sole control over the entire executive branch. Implementing Unitary Executive Theory in Project 2025 would cause tens of thousands of federal civil service workers to be reclassified as political appointees. This would then allow the president to fire any or even all of these federal employees. Trump-based screening, tests, and interviews would then be used to hire new federal workers. This means that workers would no longer be hired based on merit or ability. They would only be hired based on their loyalty to Trump. The project plans to take partisan control of the DOJ, the FBI, the Depths of Commerce, the FCC, and the FTC. It plans to abolish the Department of Education, to cut funding for Medicare and Medicaid. It wants to reject abortions as health care, to eliminate coverage of emergency contraception, to ban all pornography, to remove legal protections against discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, to end diversity, equity, and inclusivity, DEI programs. It wants to have the largest deportation effort in American history. It wants to deploy the military for domestic law enforcement. It wants speedy capital punishment sentences. It wants to infuse Christian nationalism into every section of government policy. It wants the federal government to be no more than a statistics-keeping organization for education in the US. A federal fund worth $18 billion for low-income students would be allowed to expire. There would be cuts to funding free school meals. The Head Start program, which provides services to children of low income, would be eliminated. There would be no hope for student loan forgiveness. Climatology research funding would be cut drastically. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration would be abolished. There would be an end to oil drilling restrictions. The Inflation Reduction Act would be repealed. It would encourage allied nations to use fossil fuels. It would end the 30 by 30 international goal, which is a worldwide initiative to designate 30% of Earth's land and oceans as protected areas. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists dubs Project 2025's nuclear policy as the most dramatic buildup of nuclear weapons since the start of the Reagan administration, as well as the beginning of a new global nuclear arms race. Medicare would be prohibited from negotiating drug prices. Gender-affirming care to transgender people would be denied by federal healthcare providers. Medicaid funding would be cut. The CDC would be prevented from showing public health notices. Processing fees for asylum seekers would be increased drastically. The National Guard, police, sheriffs, the Batifi, and the DEA would all be deputized to capture illegal immigrants around the country. Obviously, the funding for the border wall with Mexico would increase. If a state or local government does not comply with the new immigration laws, federal disaster relief funds given by FEMA would be withheld. The White House's Gender Policy Council would be disbanded. The U.S. Armed Forces would no longer be liable to take climate change into consideration when evaluating national security threats. Democrats and Republicans alike need to see how scary this is.